ഹൈറ്റ് നോക്കിയണ്ട.
അയ്യോ കുറച്ചെന്താ അയ്യോ അപ്പില്ല. ഹലോ 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 ഇവിടെ കേൾക്കണില്ലേ? എന്താ പറയണ്ടേ? ഹലോ വരുന്നില്ലേ? വരുന്നുണ്ട്. ഹലോ ഈ ഒരു സൗണ്ട് മതി പാടുമ്പോ വന്നോളൂ. ഇത് മതി.
ഹലോ ചെക്ക്.
ഓക്കെ ആണോ?
ഹലോ ചെക്ക്. ഹലോ.
Good morning to one and all. Welcome to the fifth oration of DM Vasudevan, Dr. DM Vasudevan. Before we start the program, I request the dignitaries Dr. DM Vasudevan, Dr. Valsraj Menon, Father Renny Mundangurian, Dr. Praveen Lal Kuttichira, Dr. P.C. Gilvas, Dr. Bindu Menon, and Dr. P.R. Verghese to kindly come to the stage and occupy their seats.
സ്വർഗമാകണേ അമ്മ നൽകുമുമ്മ പോലും അമൃതമാകണേ പൂർണ്ണമീ ചരാചരങ്ങൾ ഗുരുവരങ്ങളാകണേ.
Thank you, girls. Kindly be seated. Now I invite Dr. P.R. Verghese, Research Coordinator of Jubilee Center for Medical Research, to welcome the gathering. Professor Dr. D.M. Vasudevan is the founder director of Jubilee Center for Medical Research of Jubilee Mission Medical College, Thrissur, Kerala. His leadership accomplishment has significantly influenced the day-to-day activities of JCMR. Under his guidance, Jubilee Research is now a recognized center of DSIR and Kerala University of Health Sciences. This center has Institutional Ethical Committee and Institutional Animal Ethics Committee, both approved by Government of India. The research center has MOU with different institutes of national and international importance such as National Institute of Occupational Health Ahmedabad, NIST, a CSIR institute at Trivandrum, CRC Kozhikode under Central Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Canterbury Christ Church University UK, and University of Santo Thomas, Philippines. The publication graph of Jubilee Center for Medical Research has improved steadily with more than 100 publications in 2018. More of funder grants are coming to our way, and the latest feather to his cap is obtaining the Income Tax 35(1)(2) exemption status to JCMR granted by Government of India. Dr. Vasudevan is a distinguished personality in scientific fraternity. After completing his MBBS, he received his MD in Biochemistry from AIIMS, New Delhi, and FRC Path from UK. He is an authority in allergy and immunology and has worked extensively on cancer. Dr. Vasudevan received the prestigious Dr. B.C. Roy Award for Eminent Medical Teacher instituted by the Medical Council of India in the year 1992. He has also received the Best Doctor Award in Medical Education from Kerala Government and M.M. Ghani Award of Calicut University in the year 1994 and 95 respectively. His textbook of biochemistry for medical students is being followed by Indian and foreign universities, of which Spanish and Russian editions are also available. He has also authored textbooks for dental and paramedical students. He has guided 29 students for their PhD work. There are more than 240 publications in highly acclaimed journals to his credit. After his retirement from government service, he actively served at Kasturba Medical College, both Manipal and Mangalore, and as founder principal at Sikkim Manipal University and Amrita Medical College, Kochi. He continues to share his expertise with Amrita and Agape Diagnostics, Kochi. Dr. Vasudevan was the founder director of Research Institute at RCC Trivandrum as well as Amala Thrissur. His sustained and exceptionally high-impact leadership achievements demonstrates the effectiveness in advancing the JCMR's goals and image. An endowment oration was instituted in honor of 50 years of his academic career on 2019. The first orator was Dr. M.V. Pillai from US. The second orator was Dr. Shyam Kutil from US. The third orator was Dr. Gagandeep Kang from Vellore. The fourth oration in 2022 was delivered by Dr. Sumesh Philip Thomas, who was from Canada.
Respected dignitaries on the dais, off the dais, invited guests, faculty members, staff and students from Jubilee institutions. A very good morning. The video just played now explained who is and what our beloved Dr. D.M. Vasudevan is. We celebrated his 50 years of academic career and we decided to continue the academic celebrations every year. For this purpose, an endowment was instituted. And today, it is the fifth discourse of this endowment oration. I consider it is a privilege and matter of honor to welcome all of you to this function. Our director, Father Renny Mundangurian, is a dynamic person and is guiding us all the way. Father will inaugurate this function. I extend a warm welcome to Father Renny Mundangurian, our director, to this function. Dr. Pravinlal Kutichara, principal of the medical college, is the president of this function. He is a good researcher and an excellent administrator promoting research. Welcome, sir, to this function. How I can proceed without welcoming Dr. Vasudevan? He is well explained in the video. On his name only we are assembled here. Welcome, sir, to this function. I also extend warm welcome to Mrs. Devi Vasudevan, who is also attending the function. Welcome, ma'am. Dr. K. Valsraj Menon is the star of the day. We are eagerly waiting to listen to him. Likewise, Dr. Valsraj was also waiting for this day for the last 2 years. COVID prevented him from reaching twice. He hails from Ernakulam and working as a clinical psychologist at UK. Dr. Bindu, professor here, his batchmate at the JMMC Thrissur, will introduce him in detail. So with great pleasure and enthusiasm, I gratefully welcome Dr. Valsraj to this function. Welcome, sir. I am extremely happy to welcome Dr. P.C. Gilwas, our medical superintendent of this Jubilee Mission Hospital. Dr. Gilwas will make this day a memorable one to Dr. Valsraj. Welcome, sir, to this function. Dr. Bindu Menon, professor in the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, is a close associate of the research department of this institution. Dr. Bindu will introduce Dr. Valsraj. Welcome, Bindu ma'am, to this function. I also extend a warm welcome to all dignitaries of the dais, invited guests from various faculties and scientists from various institutions, neighboring institutions, management and administrative team of Jubilee, faculty, staff and students of Jubilee institutions, members of the press and media, and all our friends attending this oration and making this a grand success. Welcome one and all to this August function. Welcome everybody. I have one thing more to add. This research center, Jubilee Center for Medical Research, JCMR. This is a central research facility of Jubilee institutions under the Jubilee Mission Hospital Trust. We have completed 9 years and according to us, 9 years of excellence. Under the eminent leadership of Dr. D.M. Vasudevan. Sir, we are proud of you and about JCMR. Today, with this oration, we formally start the decennial celebrations of JCMR. We have planned programs on every month from this month onwards, like seminars, workshops, orations, scholarly talks, and will also host a national conference on omics, metabolomics, proteomics, genomics, like that, and omics, during April 2024. In this function, Father Director will unveil the logo of the celebrations. May I conclude? Once again, welcome to one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I invite Dr. Praveen Lal Kuttichira, Principal, Jubilee Mission Medical College and Research Institute, to deliver the presidential address.
Dr. Vasudevan, teacher of teachers, dignitaries on the dais, of the dais, few names I had to specifically remember here. The guest of honor, his friends, batchmates are here with us today from Government Medical College. We have Dr. Ramagutti, who was dermatologist par excellence in Thrissur from the days of my internship in Thrissur District Hospital. Sir is sitting in front line. Dr. Crichton from Mamala. We have fellow psychiatrist Dr. M.P. Videtil from Cambridge sitting here with us. Dr. Sheila Karalam from Ayurveda Research sitting here. Dr. K.S. Iyer, whom you and I know as the one who stitched back to full functionality of both hands of an individual in this country. Dr. Iyer is sitting here. We have many dignitaries among you, I know. I'm not naming all. I will come to my business. This oration started when Professor Vasudevan completed 50th year of academics in medical sciences. The research he started from the scratches. The day I know him as a researcher is the day when he was working in a single room in Trivandrum Medical College, attached to the cancer department, even before RCC was here. Those were the times people like me saw the automated machines which gives results as printouts. That's the time from where he started the journey. And now we know his textbook, his authorized textbook in biochemistry in 28 countries in this world. So one can start from scratches and reach the heights unimaginable. After Dr. M.V. Pillai, Dr. Shyam Sundar Kotilil, Dr. Gagandeep Kang, Dr. Sumesh Thomas, today we have Dr. Valsraj Menon for today's oration. Again, my fellow colleagues psychiatrists, we psychiatrists have a habit. After diving into the corners of the depth of human mind, we are fascinated to explore areas around us and get fascinated in that, come out with our views, etc. And today Dr. Valsraj also coming with such an idea. We have many, not only the world around, but even in India around. We have Professor Surya, after retirement from Nimans, spent his time in Aurobindo Ashram as a sannyasin. We have Professor Neki, who was the top-ranking poet in Punjabi in India. We have personalities like Mohan Maharshi, who is the doyen in the theatre art in India. We have people like even Dr. Muhammad Ali, who was the trade union leader in our own state. Many areas. Dr. Valsraj is trained in general adult psychiatry, psychiatry of learning, disability and liaison psychiatry. He is an alumnus of Thrissur Government Medical College. Then completed his training in psychiatry from the prestigious Bethlehem and Morley Hospitals in London. Bethlehem Hospitals, it is written in the history. The Bethlehem beggars appeared many places in Shakespearean lyrics. The convention of a Saturday alms for the beggars world around started because of the practice from Royal Bethlehem Hospital, where on Saturdays the patients, the chronic patients, will be sent to the streets to beg and collect money to run the institution. And Dr. Valsraj had trained in those centers. No wonder he ventures into the areas of leadership that transcends boundaries. He has more than 100 publications. More fascinating for us, or more important for me as a principal here, is he was a recipient of ICMR-STS short-term scholarship when he was a student. This is something to stimulate my students here, who last year had 6 of them had STS. This time 17 of them had applied for ICMR fellowships. So take him as a model. Tomorrow all the STS scholarship winners will be offered a dais like this somewhere in this world. Make use of it. All my best wishes to Valsraj for the oration, and all my respects to the great teacher Vasudevan sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Light symbolizes knowledge, purity, and is a dispeller of darkness. Now I request Reverend Father Rennie Mundangurian, Director, Jubilee Mission Medical College and Research Institute, to come forward and formally inaugurate the function by lighting the lamp. May I request the dignitaries to join in. Thank you all. I invite the Director for the inaugural address.
Dear Vasudevan sir, respected Dr. Valsraj Menon, respected dignitaries of the dais and of the dais. I don't repeat all the names. My duty is to officially inaugurate two things. First is the Dr. D.M. Vasudevan Endowment Oration and also decennial program of the JCMR. So, three names today come to our mind. First is our dear Vasudevan sir. Yesterday evening there was a program in Trichy. It was the official installation of the new chairman of the Trichy branch of Indian Chartered Association. And the chief guest was Dr. Vasudevan. They took, the lady who introduced Dr. Vasudevan took 10 minutes to read his achievements. So big is the personality of our dear Vasudevan. I don't go into the detail. We saw some parts of his life, and Jubilee is really proud to have him in Jubilee. We are proud of you, sir. Before coming to Jubilee, I was in Engandur Hospital, my mission hospital. I had heard about him, not much, just heard. I came 2 years ago in Jubilee. In the beginning, I thought he's a simple man, but now 2 years I'm here. I have to say, every day, I'm becoming a fan of him. So proud of him, to have him amidst us. He completed 50 years of academical service. Not simply finishing, proudly we can say successfully finished. We can say that when we see his life. So that's the first name, Vasudevan sir. I'm happy to say his name. Then in Jubilee there are so many programs there are. In 1 year, I don't know how much programs there are. CMEs, orations, so many programs of the students, JubiCon, the All India medical students workshop was here, so many programs. I can say what makes Jubilee proud, one of the best programs is this oration. It's the 5th year. I'm attending 3rd oration, and I can say every year the committee under the leadership of Dr. Varghese are finding prestigious and renowned speakers. Last 2 years I'm witness for that. So I'm standing here with a joyful heart. Again, I can attend this program today. And again, we have a renowned personality, Dr. Valsraj Menon. I don't go in detail. It will be following. Dr. Bindu will present the detail of Dr. Valsraj, an eminent personality. Hearty welcome, sir, to Jubilee. Third, the name is, after Dr. Vasudevan and Dr. Valsraj Menon, is the JCMR, our research wing of Jubilee. 9 years over, we are entering the 10th year, decennial program we have arranged. I'm standing here really with proud heart about our research institute. With a short period, Jubilee Research Center has developed into a, can say world-renowned, it's not exaggeration, but all over India, it has developed into a dynamic research institution. You will be astonished to see what the research is going on in our institute. It happened because of 2 persons. First person is Dr. Vasudevan, and the topic Dr. Valsraj Menon will present is apt for Dr. Vasudevan. Leadership transcends all boundaries. We are thankful for him, for his leadership, for the research, also close associate Dr. Varghese. And I hope this decennial program will strengthen the researchers doing here. We have a very dynamic team, guiding team. I don't say all the names. And the trainees and students are flowing to Jubilee. We had to give one more floor to Research Institute because of the flow of the trainees and students. So is the development of our research institution. So that's the 3 things. So my duty is to inaugurate this oration, also inaugurate also the decennial program of the JCMR. With your permission, I do with wholeheartedly this function's inauguration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father. Father, please stay back. Now it's time to unveil the JCMR Decennial Celebrations logo. For that, I request Dr. D.M. Vasudevan to hand over the logo case to the director. May I request Father Rennie to roll out the logo? Thank you, Father. Thank you all. Dr. Bindu Menon, Professor, Department of OBG, will introduce the speaker. Over to you, ma'am.
A very warm good morning to all on the dais and off the dais. Today I am so privileged to introduce today's orator and one of my best friend, Dr. K. Valsraj Menon. He has graduated from Government Medical College, Thrissur. He has received 2 ICMR Medical Studentship Award in the year 88, 89, 89 and 90. The second time it was under the guidance of Dr. Vasudevan sir. One of his best quality is he can make friendship with anyone. Age is not a bar for him. During his collegeship, he was equally involved in academic and non-academic activities. So these are the few friends you can see, Dr. Bins, Dr. Fiju from here. And he was the college magazine editor in the year 1990 to 1991. So that was one of the best college magazine Thrissur Medical College ever had. After MBBS, he has completed his training in psychiatry from the prestigious Bethlehem and Maudsley Hospital in London. And he is trained in general adult psychiatry, psychiatry of learning disability, and liaison psychiatry. He became a member of Royal College of Psychiatrists in the year 2001. He became a fellow of Royal College of Psychiatrists in the year 2012. Other professional roles he holds are he is the appraisal for senior medical leaders, national clinical directors, medical directors, and responsible officers for NHS England. He is a member for the Mental Health Tribunal within the Health Education and Social Care Chamber, Ministry of Justice. He is the senior clinical advisor for the mental health portfolios of Kent, Surrey, and Sussex Academic Health Science Network. He is the clinical senior honorary lecturer at King's College, London. He is very passionate in teaching. He has received Excellence in Teaching Award from King's College for the last 3 consecutive years, 2020, 21, and 22. Additionally, he is the trustee and vice chair for the London-based mental health charity CareIF, and also trustee for the Gambleware. So during COVID time, his dedicated work was well appreciated, and his name and photo was displayed on the gates and corridors of Maudsley Hospital, South London, as a token of appreciation for him. He is an accredited external assessor for the NQAS, that is the National Quality Assurance Standards, under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare of Government of India. He has experience in system leadership, interdisciplinary working, and has established international collaborations to promote best practice, faculty exchange, sharing knowledge across disciplines and international borders. He is passionate about raising awareness of health and well-being and improving the public understanding of health, promotion, and prevention strategies. He has around 100 publications to his credit. He is one of the pioneers in geopsychiatry and geopolitical determinants of health, the field that explores the impact of globalization, COVID-19, foreign policy, conflict, forced migration, climate change, gender inequality, and human rights on mental health. Two recent publications highlights his global leadership perceptiveness. That is, one is Understanding Geopolitical Determinants of Health in the Bulletin of World Health Organization, February 2021. And the another, Time for Hard Choices, a new global order for mental health in the International Journal of Social Psychiatry in August 2022. Recently, last week, he is appointed as the Deputy Chief Medical Officer, NHS Trust of Kent and Midway Hospital. So he is going to join, take that post after going from here. Last but not the least, I know him as a sincere person who always strives for perfection in his work. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Now it's time for the much-awaited oration lecture by Dr. K. Valsraj Menon. I request the other dignitaries to kindly join the audience. And sir,
So good morning, everyone. It's with a sense of nervousness that I stand here, because my senior, some of my colleagues are here, my teachers are here, and there is definitely, and very senior doctors are here within the audience. So there is a degree of trepidation and a sense of nervousness. And more than that, my classmates are here who would give me the very true feedback, very honest feedback at the end of today's oration. What I would like to do is, I'd like to start with a sense of gratitude. And sense of gratitude to my friends who are here, sense of gratitude to my teachers who have accepted my invitation, and above everything, a sense of gratitude to those those who have joined online, because I should be mindful that there are lots of people who have joined online, and I need to acknowledge their presence for this oration. Thank you all for joining from various parts and across various time zones. So your presence is very much acknowledged here. And what is that sense of gratitude that I have? So you all, it was given away by Dr. Verghese that I'm 3 years late in delivering this oration. I was due to have delivered this oration in 2021, but I could not travel because of COVID. Can you hear me? I could not travel because of COVID. And 2022, what happened was there was the Omicron variant, and there was some concerns about travelers from the UK. So I could not attend in 2022 as well, and I'm third time lucky. So it's much awaited for me. So I've had 3 years of time to prepare the oration. So I hope I can live up to the expectations. And an exceptionally kind welcome and an exceptionally kind and generous introduction by Dr. Bindu, I'm not sure if I deserve all that, and I need to live up to those expectations. And what I thought was, when I was given the opportunity for the oration, I really wondered on what would be the right sort of topic. I had to think long and hard about it. And one of the themes that you heard all through the introduction, all through the initial formalities, was the theme of leadership. And I just felt that the most fitting theme as the endowment oration for Professor Vasudevan would be leadership that transcends boundaries. So let's try and explore. Over the next 50 minutes, what I would like to do is, I'd like to explore what it means. What is leadership? And what does transcending boundaries mean? And what I've done consciously is try to highlight the complexity of leadership. It's no longer simple. And we have seen that more recently with COVID and lots of other things happening across the world. The geopolitical situations have created a sense of complexity. Wherever it is, whichever part of the world you are in, whatever you're dealing with, there is that sense of complexity. And what really matters in leadership? And I will then contradict myself by saying it is not what I said that really matters in leadership. There is something else. And that's what I will try and explore with you, what developmental psychologists talk about, the internal action logic. What does the future hold for us? What's the future of leadership? We talk about future of technology, we talk about future of medicine, we talk about the future of all things. But what's the real future of leadership? Where are we heading to? And as a matter of respect, and I would like to, once I've done all those things, at the end, I'd like to really highlight upon what is that unique leadership of Professor Vasudevan. And it's not my view. And the title, there was an additional title to this, a psychiatrist's point of view. And that view is from a top psychiatrist whom you all probably know. And this was something I had a discussion with that top psychiatrist. I'm not going to reveal it now. That's a surprise till the end. Okay? And I'll end with some concluding remarks. So in terms of the disclaimer, I've already touched upon that. There's lots of tech talks about leadership. So I'm not going to tell anything new. And leadership as such is phenomenally vast. And I will not be able to cover that in the next 50 minutes. It's phenomenally vast. The number of books and the number of articles across each domain, and the Harvard Business Review comes up with varying different themes of leadership all the time. Styles of leadership, traits of leadership, personality, all those sorts of things. And I'm not going to name any specific names, but I will refer to relevant examples that we can all relate to, not something that we can't relate to. But some examples might be international to highlight the degree of complexity and some of the leadership lessons. So just to set the context, what's leadership? What is leadership? I'm not going to define it because there are various definitions for leadership. But when we spot the right leadership, and we were just highlighting, everyone here was highlighting the leadership of Professor Vasudevan across various different levels. When we spot excellent leadership, we know there is leadership there. We really admire that. We really appreciate that. What is it? Is it an art? Yes, it possibly is. And there are hundreds and thousands of articles relating to, if you look at it, the number of hits that you would receive for is leadership an art? Phenomenal numbers. Is it a science? Yes, and that's what I would try and explore. Yes, it is definitely a science. Is there something secretive about it? Yes, that's why I mustered some courage when I finished my medical school days, and when I met Vasudevan sir once, I really wanted to know what secrets of leadership is. And he was my teacher, and I really wanted to understand what's a secret. And there are secrets, and there are some secrets. And it varies, and that's what brings in that uniqueness in leadership. And it's sometimes very, very magical. When the real leadership plays out, it's absolutely magical. So I just thought I'll put this quote here, and this kind of sums up the science, the art, and the magical nature of leadership, and the secret behind it. So a leader is best when people barely know he exists. When his work is done, his aim fulfilled, they will say, we did it ourselves. And if you look at that quote, this is the art of leadership at its best. The art actually conceals the art. That's the beauty of leadership. That's the beauty of phenomenally wonderful leadership. So, we are here in this hall, Mother Theresa Hall. So, any leader is guided by a moral compass. And there is that moral compass. And this comes from various sources, from your childhood, from your upbringing, from your ideology. It could be your religious beliefs, it could be a religious text, it could be from the scriptures, it could be something spiritual, it could be something ideological, it could be something philosophical. And across the world, people would be guided by that moral compass. And through this oration, the secret that was revealed to me by Professor Vasudevan, I would reveal it as the oration sort of progresses on. And I was very fortunate to be guided when I shared the initial presentation to receive that guidance again in terms of highlighting the depth of Professor Vasudevan's moral compass in terms of what Professor Vasudevan ascribed to. So if we were to think about Mother Teresa, we are here in Mother Teresa, even to this date, we are fully aware of what that moral compass was. It was about the kindness, it was about the compassion. And people, every leader does have, when they show their leadership, they're guided by that moral compass. So, I just thought it would be appropriate at this point to reflect back on some of the leadership that I had seen as a medical student. 3 different examples. So let me start off with the very first example of this oration itself. And then two others I'll share. One was at a college level, the other one was much more broader and wider. So in terms of this oration, setting up this oration is clearly a leadership of the proud students of Professor Vasudevan. And in 2020, they were in a dilemma. 2021, they were in a dilemma. All functions, all face-to-face functions were cancelled, but they were determined. This was even before the term hybrid working and hybrid model of conferences was in vogue. Most conferences were being cancelled. And the students of Professor Vasudevan, they showed real leadership in ensuring that it happened. It happened face-to-face here, and they also set up the hybrid link. So that's one example of clear leadership that was shown in setting up the oration as a starter and then continuing it during the times when it was uncertain. The other thing is very close to my heart as a psychiatrist. I was a psychiatrist at that time. I was a medical student. Unfortunately, I sought permission from my teachers, and Dr. Praveen Lal is here. I can share this story. This was, all of you have heard about ECT, or otherwise known as, I don't like to use that terminology, but that's the most commonly understood terminology, is shock treatment. And as I said, now we are into the geopolitical milieu. Those times it was the socio-political context, and ECT had a very bad connotation. The way movies had portrayed ECT, most of you would know about Talavattam, the way it's portrayed, it's got a very negative connotation. And this was something that I saw as a medical student, the change in practice from a third-year medical student to a final-year medical student. So the way ECT used to be administered was without anesthesia, and it's a very, and this is one of the things about leadership. When you look back, what are the kind of things that you would be ashamed of? You look back, you look down 50 years later, what are the kind of things that are happening now that you would be ashamed of? With 2 young, dynamic assistant professors came, started in the department. So there were 3 faculties in the department. The 3 of them together, the 2 young assistant professors then they were very clear that they wanted to change this practice and administer the ECT in a modified way, which is with anesthesia and with muscle relaxant. Unfortunately, Professor A.K. Unikrishnan, who is the anesthesia professor, is unable to attend here. He was invited. He would have been here with us, and Dr. Shaji is also unable to attend here. So it was Professor Shaji and Professor Arun Kishore who changed the mode of delivery of ECT from an unmodified ECT to a modified. And this was met with resistance, this was met with skepticism, and it was done in a very, very creative manner. So the patients were taken to the recovery room, and it was with full support from the anesthesia department. So that was something that I saw as a change by two young assistant professors in psychiatry, changing that practice, addressing stigma, those things as a medical student. So that's a massive change. The other thing is about, all of you know, I was a 7th batch medical student of Trichy Medical College. Formative years, lots of challenges, there was no recognition, there were lots of things to be dealing with. And the leadership provided by Professor Vasudevan in his role as vice principal was phenomenal. Simple things like getting onto the books of the WHO school, Director of World Medical Schools, lots of things had to be done, recognition. So this was the leadership shown by the students, the teachers, the parents of the students at that time to ensure that these things happen for the future of the medical school and for everyone's future. So that's the kind of things that I wanted to really share at the outset in terms of what leadership is. Everyone here would have been a leader at some point or the other and would have demonstrated the leadership. So that's what I want to really get across today in terms of leadership. I said all these things, but leadership is exceptionally complex in today's changing world. We live in what is known as the VUCA world. I'm sure some of you here would know what VUCA stands for. So it's about the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. It's very, very complex in terms of, and COVID-19 is a classic example and case in point for that unprecedented challenge that we faced with. Borders were closed, it affected the travel industry, it affected the hospitality industry. It was just not affecting healthcare alone. It affected nations, it affected leaders. It had an impact on everybody. And what's the kind of thing that you learn when you face these unprecedented challenges? And providing leadership in an ever-changing, constantly changing VUCA world is exceptionally complex. And we'll try and explore what can we do to provide leadership in those. One has to transcend boundaries. There were lessons, early lessons from Italy, early lessons from China. Did our leaders really look into those things? Again, there is a reason for that. It's not about blaming anybody. It's about leaders there is that expectation from people around for action, for someone to take command. And if you look at it, I've highlighted some of those words. Listening is key. There was sometimes it's the inability to listen. And in highly complex situations, there's no easy solution. And there is that desire to act. But in that time of uncertainty, it's the ability to stay calm, stay focused, at the same time able to invite experimentation, innovation, and creativity. And I'll illustrate that with an example. So, does this mean anything to any of you? Some of you who are quizzers here would probably know what this note is about. It says, it's a note that the president of Chile showed it to the media following a Chilean mine accident in 2010. So what it reads is, we are well in the shelter, the 33 of us. And this, put the context here. So there were 33 miners who were stuck in a Chilean mine. It was a gold and copper mine. And they were in that mine, in the refuge for 69 days with very minimal food supply. Do you think they would have survived? You're all doctors here, and do you think they would have survived? 69 days, 33 of them, the chances were pretty bleak. Not even 1%. The stakes were high, the risks were high, everything was high, uncertainty was high, everything was high. The story is that all the 33 of them survived. All 33 of them survived. And it was very, very complex. And this particular leadership, and why do I say this now? We are actually facing such a crisis at this point in time in Turkey with the earthquake. And some of the leadership behaviors there, it clearly isn't transcending those boundaries here. So what happened was that all the 33 of them, it was a private mine, privately owned mine, government took over, and there was help sought from various different professionals, geologists, 3D mapping specialists. They did not have a proper map. They did not have any idea of what would happen. It was an old mine. It could collapse. They had very limited supply. So we are talking about the leadership above ground, but there was equal leadership below ground. The foreman, Louis, there, provided that leadership to ensure that there was strict rationing. There was a democratic leadership there. It was not the survival of the fittest. And that note, when a drill bit was sent into the mine, they taped it on to the drill bit, and that's what you see there. And there's a movie on this called Los 33. They call themselves as Los 33. Los is a Spanish word which means the 33, and there's a film which is based on this particular incident. And that clearly is an example of how help was sought from Australia, help was sought from the US, help was sought from various different professionals, various different organizations, and there was a lot of goodwill to provide help and support. And what the learning was that the question was whether it should be directive, taking charge and commanding action, or it should be empowering. And what the leader, Andre, a very senior executive, a mining engineer who was leading the operation, said, that's a false dichotomy. There isn't a real sense in making that dichotomy. It's both. It's the dual approach factoring in this triple approach. And by envisioning, what they mean is that you need to keep up the realism and hope. Enrolling, it means that you've got endless collaboration and support from people, and we need to engage. There are times the leader and the leadership that is shown needs to take control, take charge, set boundaries, but never stop that creativity. So I'd like to quote Dr. Peter Lees. He's a founder of, is a surgeon. I should have called him Mr. Lees. He's a surgeon. He is a true leader. And he is the one who set up the Faculty of Medical Leadership and Management. One of the things he was very keen on is to drive that medical leadership. And what he says is that the solitary, heroic leadership cannot have all the answers. But what I would tell you is that we have seen that leadership in Kerala. I'm really proud to say that we have seen that leadership in Kerala, the medical leadership we've seen in Kerala, and I'll give you that example in a minute. So one needs to transcend boundaries, and that is possible only by being able to transcend boundaries. So I've just put this slide here, and is anybody able to say what is the story that I am trying to convey here? So a group of people from various different professions, veterinarians, physicists, mathematicians, polymer scientists, textile technologists, metallurgists, biomedical engineers. They are the kind of professional groups. There are even more. I haven't put all of them. But there is also various different chemical laboratory, textile association, space research organization, aeronautical institute. The combination of all these professionals and these organizations resulted in something really, really magical for our Kerala state, and we are really proud of that even to this date. What is that? Any guesses? Okay, I'm talking about the Chitra valve. Even before we talked about Atmanirbhar Bharat, this was developed in 1990. But we got to rewind 7.5 years. So it didn't start at 1990. It was a finished product in 1990 with failures, with 3 failures before that. That's Chitra valve. Again, I need to share this. This is very much in the public domain. And I've taken this from the public domain. And this is the changing perceptions of intelligentsia. As a leader, one has to go through these phases. There is the phase of skepticism. There are these phases of skepticism. So when the valve was being developed, when the blood bags were being, when the Chitra valve was being developed, there was this intense skepticism, negativity. But how do you? And then you fail. The valve fails. What do you do? So fooling with plastics, playing with experiments, having been in it all the years, well, it's not going to work in humans. It's probably going to work experimentally in animals. Yes, successful, but what's going to be the long-term results? Long-term results pretty positive. Just for the purposes, I actually read that the first valve kept in 1990, 27 years on, it's still functioning. But that was not, and that's again a quality. What matters in leadership? And this is what Professor Valyathan shared with me in the conversation on 11th of February 2023, and I have his permission to put this quote here. We make boundaries, boundaries are man-made. And my conversation, he's 90 years now, a conversation with him left me totally inspired. Even to this day, he inspires. And that's the kind of thing that we're talking about. And I thought it was important to share this in terms of how we can transcend boundaries. And why is it that we should be talking about medical leadership and the complexities? I'll tell you that in a minute as we go through the presentation. So I shared this with Professor Vasudevan, and this gives you a clue about what the moral compass of Professor Vasudevan is. He shares this slogan with me about transcending boundaries. It is about, it's from the Bhagavad Gita. It's the 45th slogan in the 2nd chapter. And what it says is that, I'll try and attempt to recite it. I might not be able to recite it as well as you would want to hear it, but I'll try. What it says, Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha, Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna, Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvastaha, Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. What it means is that one needs to be able to transcend oneself to get to that higher level. And this was an addition that Professor Vasudevan suggested to add in terms of an appropriate quote for transcending boundaries. There are lots of myths around leadership. Lots of myths around leadership. Leaders are born. You can't teach leadership. But can leadership be developed and learned? Yes, it certainly can be developed and learned. So in terms of the leadership learning, it's an industry now. Leadership is an industry now, and you have various different leadership. You have healthcare leadership. Within healthcare leadership, you have clinical leadership, you have nursing leadership, you have medical leadership, you have healthcare insurance leadership. So there are various different strands to leadership. And in terms of the learning, what one needs to understand is that it follows the 70-20-10 rule. It's not from classrooms. It's experiential learning, taking up challenging assignments that constitutes about 70% of the learning. 20% of the learning is from others, and it's only 10% that's from coursework and training. So what really matters in leadership? So it's what we see as observable behaviors. And I've tried to summarize this to 9 points in terms of what could be those attributes. There are lots of, if you look at some of the literature, there are studies that say there are 21 different characteristics of leaders, which includes charisma, which includes their approachability. All those things are there. But I've tried to, and again, this is incomplete. That's the complexity of leadership. And it's not having one or the other. It's having that blend of various different qualities that makes a leader. So it's values and behaviors. How do you show your value through your behaviors? And I'm going to contradict myself as we go on. It's not the observable behaviors, it's something else, much more than that, even which the leader is probably also not aware of. So it's the respect. How does a leader respect others? How does a leader demonstrate his values? And what are some of the core values? And when we look around, we will see that that's definitely one of the things that leaders really show. And it's very important to show that consistency of that behavior and value, which is always observed by people. And it's about listening to understand. It's not just about listening, but that ability to listen to understand and to hear more than what is actually being said. And one of the things that was highlighted earlier on today was that a psychiatrist, it was Dr. Ashwath who was telling me that as a psychiatrist you listen, and that's what the psychiatrist's job is. And I'd like to quote Professor Dinesh Bugra here, who's a president of the Royal College of Psychiatrists, was a WPA, World Psychiatry Association president, and the president of the BMA. He always highlights this point to psychiatrists, is that to take pride in the specialty and the experiences that it offers, to the ability to listen and gain insights into dealing with ambiguity. There's a slight difference with other specialties in psychiatry. The psychiatry situations are more complex. Surgical situations are, Professor Nataraj might disagree with me, are complicated. I'll explain that in a minute. Whereas psychiatrists deal with much more complex situations. There is a degree of ambiguity all the time. There's a degree of uncertainty, and how do you deal with those things? And that's the kind of thing one needs to be aware of as a leader. Sense checking the environment. If you look at exceptional leaders, they are never stuck in the past, or they're never stuck in the present. But they communicate the present, but they're always looking at what is ahead tomorrow. What is relevant today? What will be relevant tomorrow? There's always ideas, generating hypotheses, and there is that. There's a real incubation of ideas and generating those ideas, and they're able to take that imaginative leap. They're able to communicate that dream and seeing that tomorrow, today, and communicating that sensibly, but very well firmly grounded to today. And they're able to mobilize that talent, work across boundaries. And here again, I was given this quote by Professor Vasudevan, which is the 4th chapter, 40th sloga. What it means is that if you don't take that imaginative leap, if you are doubting yourself, and to quote Shakespeare, it's your doubts actually hold you back. You never move on from that status quo. If you have to move on from status quo, you need to be able to take that imaginative leap and take that bold step. So, which takes us to our very important point is about creating that environment to succeed is key, and the leader needs to be supportive and developmental and focus on that sense of purpose and focus. And the leader, if he shows that responsibility, accountability, and ownership, that really can distill down into the team, that also pays rich dividends. And one of the things that sometimes is not is very much discounted is that courage to take those decisions and making that decision. So at this point, I just wanted to share with you the work of Snowden in terms of decision making. There are 4 levels of decision making. One is very simple, a very simple problem. You have very straightforward answers to that. The second is something complicated. That's what we deal with in medicine most of the time, a transplant surgery. All those things are complicated. There are different variables, but there is an end point to it in terms of, these are the kind of things, and things can go wrong, but there are answers to that. The next one is a complex problem. There is no precedent to a complex problem. There isn't a precedent. And you need a different kind of leadership. The complicated issues are dealt with by experts, but for complex, you need something different. And then lastly is something very chaotic. It's not just complex alone, but it's chaotic as well. What do you do in such situations? So there needs to be that level of understanding about the degree of problems one could face with in leadership. And for that, you need different skills in terms of decision making. And I shared the story about the Chitra valve. You all know about other success stories, but those success stories have always had failures. As a leader, in terms of the leadership, it's to provide support to those team when things fail, never to be despondent, to be able to take forward that sense of despondency, to learn from those failures and move on. So after 7.5 years and 3 failures, the 4th valve was a real success. And now it's more, I think it's about 1.8 lakh Chitra valves has been. And again, Professor Valyatanmuri shared with me was that sense of purpose, and there was a real sense of need as a leader to do that. There was a demand, and how do you address that? How do you develop that indigenously? There was cost pressures, and that had to be done at that point in time. So, I'd like to quote again here, every work has got to pass through hundreds of difficulties before succeeding. Those that persevere will see light sooner or later. And consistency of behaviors, consistency of these things are absolutely key. And it's not that having one factor that really does better, it's about having various different qualities that really matters. But you might have one more than the other, and there are certain situations where you might need certain other qualities. So that is what is key. So just moving on to, now I'm just going to change track in terms of what is this internal action logic. So this is the science of internal action logic. Everyone has been interested in leadership. Lots of people have done lots of studies on leadership. And I just talked to you about, discovered the behaviors, the observable characteristics. Developmental psychologists have had a real interest in what is it that makes a leader different. And that's, I think the answer lies in the science of action logic. So it's not, what these developmental psychologists say is that it's not the observable characteristics that matter, but it is more the way they make sense of the world. And the leaders themselves are not aware of the internal action logic, of their internal action logic. What's different of this model is that it's much more a developmental model. It's not about the competency. It's more about, it's not about doing more of the same. It's about the development from one level of internal action logic to the next. And what they found was that there are 7 transformations of leadership, and this was the article by Ruke and Tobet in the Harvard Business Review in 2005. And you might wonder, is there a methodology to find one's internal action logic? Yes, there is. And that's through what is known as a sentence completion test. And it's analyzed as to know what is that internal action logic. Why does it matter? Yes, it matters. So these are the 7 levels of action logic. And it's a progression from one to the next. So if you look at it, most of the leaders are either at the expert or achiever stage. And this was following the study by the authors in terms of what they interviewed various leaders, and this is what they found out. So if you look at it, this is where most people are comfortable at the expert level. You're experts in something. And the issue with that expertise is that experts really want certainty, and they're more comfortable with a single version of the truth. So the current leadership models allow people to further keep bettering themselves as an expert, but not progress to the next level. So if you look at the post-conventional levels of action logic, is a strategist and alchemist. They do much more things at a much more system level, much more societal level, and that's the kind of thing that leaders should try to progress to. And that is what the action logic helps to understand. So if you look at the strategist, what the strategist does is, there is that calm of passionate detachment for the strategist. And the sobering fact for all of us is that majority of the leadership is clusters around the expert and achiever, the 38, so it's a total of 68%. That's something very sobering. And attempts to be made to move from one level to the other. So it's progressing across those levels as a leader. That's leadership maturation. And one word of caution is that being an expert in a particular area for a number of years does not guarantee that maturation. It's about dealing with complexity and a conscious effort through assessing your action logic that really allows you to move to the next levels. Well, I just wanted to put this here as well. So what happens is, I can see Dr. Vasudevan smiling because he knows about hubris, and there is a word coined hubris syndrome as well. Yeah, hubris is when one gets a sense of being invincible. It's not something good to have for the leader, and I'll tell you at the end why some of the leaders really stand out. What is that really makes them stand out? And I just thought it was important to put this word here, hubris. It's that invincible. They get very intoxicated by the successes. And they demonstrate some behaviors which can be perceived negatively by their team, by others. So, and this kind of sums it up. So the hubris syndrome, it's the intoxication. So this is a book by David Owen. So what does the future hold for us? Well, we live in an ever-increasing world of complexity and ambiguity in an ever-changing VUCA world. And what leaders tend to do, and it's not to blame anybody. It's easy to take a polarized view, and what we see is an increasing polarization. We also need to realize that in today's world of technology, of digital transformations, one needs to be really, really savvy in navigating the technological and digital maze. And for a leader to be in the forefront, that's absolutely key. And we're also in this age of not information, we are in an age of information and disinformation, misinformation. So how do you try and deal with these things? And as I highlighted at the very outset, and during the course, the oration is about the geopolitical situations, and the leaders who emerge from now on should be able to deal with those geopolitical scenarios and be sensitive to the leadership needs based on that geopolitical. And artificial intelligence is here. Are we going to see robotic leadership? I hope not. Are we going to, we've got the action logic. We want a strategist here to do this. We feed, and we got a robot to lead us. Is that something that you would want? But I don't think it's far away. It can happen. It's not something that is unreal. We got ChatGPT now. We got lots of things happening now. But are we going to have a robotic leader telling us to do what we need to do? I've heard that there are robotic teachers in India in some schools. We all know about, I think that's one of the things. Is it what's going to happen? But again, in the leadership space, it's that ability to influence these changes. How do you influence some of these changes so that it keeps that humanity within check? And I just like to share some of the unique. It's not the ones I said. It's something different, and this is something that was shared by my teacher and Professor Vasudevan sir's student. And I said this, I had a discussion with, and this is by none other than Professor Arun Kishore, who shared his wisdom with me in terms of what makes Professor Vasudevan's leadership unique. It's the humility with wisdom. I talked about hubris earlier on, but the key is about the humility with wisdom. And always been approachable, whatever level you are, transcends total boundaries in terms of approachability and accessibility. I was a second-year medical student. I knew Professor Vasudevan from that time, and there was that approachability and accessibility, and that is true even to this day. Very young medical students can still approach him. Anybody can approach Professor Vasudevan sir. And this is Dr. Arun Kishore. What he said was that Professor Vasudevan sir has got this unique style of listening without thinking of a response. He gives you the time. And let me tell you, when I approached sir with secrets of leadership, one of the things that he mentioned to me was listen. Even though I'm trained as a psychiatrist, is one of the things that he told me is that if you listen in your leadership roles, I spent some time in Amrita Institute for some time, and I did seek the wise counsel and mentorship and coaching from Professor Vasudevan, and this was one of the key things he told me. Listen, and 60 or 70% of the problems will go away. You might not be able to solve the problem, but it's more about that listening. And his former student, my teacher, clearly was a top psychiatrist, Dr. Arun Kishore. Most of you would know him here. Is currently in the UK, but he was a top psychiatrist, not just of Trichy town or Kerala, but much wider than that. So never thinking about a response. And was always able to do that balancing act of academia versus leadership. And never waited for that role to be a leader. Demonstrated leadership from his very, very early days itself. And never sought power, but when it came his way, he never turned it down. And there was a universal appeal for across organizations, across disciplines. And if you look at his students, his PhD students, they come from a wide variety of professional disciplines. And that clearly highlights how Professor Vasudevan has transcended boundaries. So, in terms of concluding thoughts, I want to bring the oration to a close in the next few minutes. If you ask me in terms of leadership, what would be the two key things? I'm sure our theologians here would agree with me. It's that humility with wisdom and role modeling and leading by example. And we've seen that clearly in phenomenal leaders. So again, humility with wisdom. There is a word in Sanskrit, and this is a sloka from Bhagavad Gita, 18th sloka, chapter 5. What it says is Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. So one who has the wisdom and one who is endowed with that humility. That humility with wisdom is key. And this is another sloka from Narayaniam, which says that it's not just the knowledge, the jnanam, and the tapas, which is your practice, which is your action, but it is your humility that really matters. Role model and leading by example, and that is how does and this is a sloka from the Bhagavad Gita. It reads like this: Edyada charadi sreshtaha tatta deve taru janaha sayat pramanam kurude logas tadanuvartade. What it does is, so the leaders are always, exceptionally phenomenal leaders are always under close observation. We observe what they do. They need to set that, so whatever they do is taken on as an example, and whatever they hold true or whatever they hold on to is taken as the gospel. That's what it means. That's the very simplistic way of explaining that. And what I would like to say is that one of the things, in terms of moral compass, Professor Vasudevan was always guided by the tenets of the Bhagavad Gita, and he was able to add on more slokas, and he was able to guide me to the things that, and that is at a much more philosophical level, much more higher level. It's not that simplistic. And that's how a leader transcends boundaries. So I'd like to express my gratitude and acknowledgements to innumerable number of people. There were several people who have contributed and supported me. Thanks to my family, my brother and sister-in-law, they are here. They have been phenomenally helpful. My nieces have been helpful. My cousin is here as well. And I've got my teachers, my friends, my mentors, my colleagues. Some of them are listening online as well. So I'd like to really express my gratitude, immense gratitude to those of you who have come here today. Immense gratitude to those who have joined online. And it's been a challenge but it was a phenomenally wonderful opportunity to think about what would be an apt topic. There are references as well. And now, I'd like to end on a light note. I'm sure my childhood friend Ram Mohan is watching online. And when he got this topic, he put this question on, he put two questions on ChatGPT. And if I told you that I made this talk based on what ChatGPT gave me, would you believe it? Okay. So he put these questions. So write a 4-page essay on the topic, the leadership that transcends boundaries, a psychiatrist's point of view. And then he wrote, and this were his comments, thought this would be tough for ChatGPT, but it actually gave me the answer. I got the answer on my phone. He shared it with me. It did give me an answer. It gave my friend Ram Mohan an answer, a 5,000-word essay and a 5,000-word. So it was just an experiment that he did, but it did happen. So AI leadership might not be a distant dream. It might happen, but it's how we influence it. And may I end this oration by this thought, and thank you so much for listening. So it's that humility wisdom. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful and informative talk. Now it's time to hand over the memento to the speaker. For that, I request all the dignitaries to kindly come to the stage. We also have a senior consultant, Dr. Ramankutti, dermatologist amongst us. I request him to kindly join the dignitaries on the stage. I also invite Mrs. Devi to join the dignitaries on the stage. I request Dr. P.C. Gilvas, Professor and Head, Department of Neurology and Medical Superintendent of Jubilee Mission Medical College and Research Institute to hand over the memento to the Speaker of the Day, Dr. K. Valsraj Menon, as token of our love and appreciation. Thank you, sir.
I would just like to say 2 words about this oration. It was a great talk, and the finale was humility and wisdom. This, I think, should be the take-home message. Jubilee has always thrown up great stalwarts. We have in our midst Dr. Vasudevan. Before that, we have had people like Dr. Aidenwala, we've had people like Dr. Varghese Paul, giants in their own state. We always say, dwarfs standing on the shoulders of giants see much further than the giant themselves. We today are standing on the shoulders of a giant, and therefore we imagine that we see further than the giant himself. And speaking of our orator, most people talk to you in their spare time, and they have time to spare. Here is a person who has made time to speak to you. And I think every word of this should reverberate in your memory always. Thank you so very much, sir.
Thank you, Gilvas, sir. Now I invite Dr. Matthew John, scientist, Jubilee Center for Medical Research, for the vote of thanks.
Respected dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. First of all, let me sincerely thank Almighty for making this event a grand success again. This is the 5th endowment oration, Dr. D.M. Vasudevan endowment oration. And let me thank Dr. Valsraj Menon, today's eminent speaker. Sir, we are delighted and privileged to hear you for your deep insights into every aspect of leadership, and you have made us aware that humility with wisdom, as Gilvas sir quoted, that's the take-home message for all of us. And life is an art, leadership is an art and a science as well. Thank you, sir, for again enlightening all of us with the talk. Next, thanks to our beloved director, Reverend Father Reni Muntan Kurian. Achin is always supportive to research, and he is involved in every aspect of research and very much supporting our journey. Next, thanks to our beloved principal, Dr. Praveen Lal Kuttichira. Sir is an active researcher and a great academician. Thank you, sir, for being part of us for this program. Next, thanks to Professor in the Department of Neurology, Dr. P.C. Gilvas. In spite of his, in between his tight schedule in clinical department, sir found some time with us and enlightening with us a very brief speech, and thank you, sir, for coming over here. And next is all our great teacher and light, Dr. D.M. Vasudevan. Thank you, sir, with a great honor to be part of this program. Thank you, sir. Next, thanks to our great leader, Dr. P.R. Varghese, sir, who has been the unifying force for all of us and the master brain behind the entire concept of this program. And thank you, sir, for being part of it. Next, thanks to Professor Bindu, madam, and thank you for introducing the speaker for this program and being part of this event. In spite of, in between your tight schedule, again, you came over here and spent time with us, and we are all thankful on behalf of JCMR and Jubilee. We are thankful for you, madam. Thank you. And we would like to thank the entire Jubilee management and administrative team for supporting us throughout this program and making this event a grand success. Thank you. We would like to especially thank the EDP department, the powerhouse department, the canteen, and the other people from the maintenance department, Mr. Dominic sir, and the other Joby Chetan and all the team for their wholehearted cooperation to making this program a success. Thank you all the team. And I would like to thank all the faculty who come over here and attending this program and making this event and being part of us, part of this program. Thank you all the respected faculty. Last not but least, in hierarchical order, the entire JCMR team for their selfless cooperation for making this event a grand success. The students, the PhD scholars, the trainees, everybody, and the entire administration team in the research department, we are grateful for all of them. We cannot tell, it's a big strength now, so we cannot individually name anyone, but all of us, my colleagues, everybody. So on behalf of JCMR and the Jubilee family, I thank once again all of you. Thanks.
Thank you, Matthew, sir. Once again, thank you for being with us. Please join us for the tea, which will be served to your left side of the auditorium. I request the volunteers to kindly guide the guests.